I quietly walked away from my wife after discovering her shocking affair. At the time, I thought I'd never see her again, but a year later, she tracked me down, desperately begging for my forgiveness. What happened next will change everything you think you know about love, betrayal, and second chances. We had been together for over 3 years. To the outside world, we were the perfect couple. I worked a stable job with occasional travel, and she had a thriving career. We owned a nice apartment and shared dreams of a future together, a future that seemed almost certain. But despite all this, something started to feel off. There were small signs, subtle changes. She began working later, often missing our weekend plans to attend more and more business dinners. At first, I didn't think much of it. Either job was demanding, and I was away often. We both had our commitments. But slowly, I could feel her pulling away, emotionally distant and increasingly uninterested. And I, like a fool, kept telling myself that things would go back to normal. Little did I know, my world was about to shatter, and the woman I thought I knew was hiding something far worse than I could ever imagine. It started with something small, something I might have brushed off if I wasn't already feeling uneasy. One evening, I was helping her unload groceries from the car. As I reached for bags in the back seat, something caught my eye, a glint of pink. It was a bra that I knew belonged to her from her favorite store. My stomach twisted. I couldn't make sense of it. Why was it under the seat, hidden away like that? She was always meticulous about where she kept her things, especially her clothes. I tried to shake it off, but that feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I was in denial. At that moment, I tried to brush it aside, thinking maybe it had just been misplaced. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The next few days, the clues kept adding up. Her behavior had changed. She would come home late, often claiming she was stuck at work. But I never saw any evidence of that. Then there was the constant phone use, texts she would delete immediately after reading them. I never suspected her cheating. I always trusted her. But trust isn't enough when someone is hiding the truth. Then came the moment I could no longer ignore. One evening, I set up a romantic dinner. Candles, flowers, everything. I wanted to show her how much I cared, to bring us back to where we once were. But when she walked in, the excitement in her eyes quickly turned into guilt. She apologized and told me she had to leave to meet her coworkers. It was always the same excuse. But this time, I couldn't take it anymore. Something snapped. As she got ready, I grabbed her phone and tossed it in the back seat of her car. I needed answers. I needed to know the truth. So I followed her. That night, the truth hit me harder than anything I could have imagined. I followed her to the bar she always went to after work. The tension was unbearable. I sat in my car, watching her mingle with her coworkers. But my eyes were fixed on her, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Then it happened. I saw her walk out of the bar with him, a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, well-dressed, and far too familiar with her for my liking. They weren't just friends. As they walked toward his car, they laughed, and then, without any hesitation, they kissed. My heart dropped. My world came crashing down. In that moment, I watched them drive away together, and without thinking, I followed them. I couldn't stop myself. They drove straight to a hotel, parked, and walked in holding hands. Everything I thought I knew, everything I believed about our marriage, was shattered in those few minutes. My mind was racing. I felt numb. My body was on autopilot, but I could barely keep it together. I couldn't fathom what was happening. How could she do this to me? We had built a life together, shared everything, and now all that seemed meaningless. My stomach twisted, and I was paralyzed by anger and disbelief. I was no longer the man who trusted her. I was a broken man who realized he'd been living a lie. I couldn't stay. The anger, the betrayal, it was too much. That night, I got in my car and just drove. I didn't know where I was going, but I needed to get away from everything. I couldn't be in that house anymore. I couldn't be near her. The air in that place felt suffocating, like every room was filled with lies. So I left. No fight, no confrontation. I didn't scream or shout. I just packed my things, left my wedding ring on the kitchen table, and walked out. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but at the same time, it was a relief. I had to get away. I had to find a place where I could breathe again, where I could think clearly without the constant reminder of the betrayal that had destroyed my world. I found peace in the most unlikely place. Up in the hills, a small trailer tucked away from the chaos, far from everything and everyone. It was just what I needed. The solitude gave me the space to process everything that had happened. I started running again, focusing on my health, my mental well-being. I didn't realize it at the time, but this would become my sanctuary, my healing place. I thought I was done with her, done with everything. I thought I had moved on, that I was free, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. That's when she found me. A year had passed. I had finally started to feel like myself again, building a life away from the pain. And then one day, my phone buzzed. It was a message from her. Her name lit up the screen, and for a moment, I just stared at it. I hadn't heard from her in months. No word, no calls, no texts. And now, out of nowhere, there she was, trying to reach me. I couldn't believe it. I hadn't thought about her in weeks. Yet here she was, trying to crawl back into my life. Her message was simple, yet filled with desperation. I'm sorry. I need to see you. I can't keep living like this. She begged me for a chance to explain. I ignored it at first, but as days passed, her messages became more frantic. She said she changed, that she regretted everything. I could feel the weight of her words, but I was still numb, still so hurt. How could I believe her after everything? How could I just let her waltz back into my life after the devastation she caused? Then she did something I didn't expect. She showed up at my doorstep. There she was, standing in front of me, her eyes filled with tears, her face pale from the emotional weight of it all. She begged for my forgiveness, told me how much she loved me, how she'd realized her mistakes. She said she had made a huge error and wanted a second chance. But the damage was done. The trust was shattered beyond repair. As she spoke, all I could think about was the image of her with him, walking into that hotel together. I couldn't shake it. My heart was heavy, but my decision was clear. I wasn't going back. I didn't hold back. I told her everything that had been building up inside of me since I saw her with him. I looked her in the eye and said, "You have no right to come here and undo all the harm you've done. Do you really think I'll overlook everything you destroyed? Everything we had? There's no going back from this." Her face crumpled as the words hit her like a freight train. She cried, begged, and apologized, but it was too late. The pain was still fresh in my mind. Watching her enter that hotel with him, holding his hand as if nothing had ever mattered between us. I could see her falling apart in front of me, but nothing she said could fix what was broken. She kept telling me how much she regretted it, how she wished she could go back in time and change everything. But how could I? How could I forgive her after seeing the truth with my own eyes? The truth was, I didn't trust her anymore. All I could feel was anger. I had never thought I'd be in this situation. Never thought I'd have to choose between her and my peace of mind. As she cried on my shoulder, I pushed her away. "No more," I said. "You don't get to hurt me like this and expect forgiveness. You've already destroyed what we had, and I won't let you do it again." She kept trying, but I stood firm. I had already made up my mind. I wasn't going back to her. There was no us anymore, only the ghost of a love that had died long ago. I knew what I had to do. There was no turning back now. She might have begged, she might have cried, but I wasn't the same man who trusted her once. The woman I had loved was gone, replaced by someone who was capable of breaking my heart without a second thought. I had found peace in my new life, a life where I didn't have to look over my shoulder or wonder if I was being lied to. That was the life I wanted now, and I wasn't going to let her or anyone take that away from me. As she stood there trying to convince me that she could make things right, I realized something. This wasn't about forgiveness. It was about reclaiming control over my life. I had been living for her, for us, but now I had to live for myself. I was done with the lies, done with the uncertainty. I didn't want to waste any more time in a relationship that wasn't built on trust. I had to be free of her, free of the past. I turned away from her and walked back to my trailer, the weight lifting off my shoulders with every step. I didn't need closure from her. I didn't need an apology. I just needed to move on. The thought of going back to that life, to that pain, seemed unimaginable. She had made her choices, and now I was making mine. And my choice was clear. I was done. I wasn't going back to her. Not now. Not ever. Walking away from my marriage wasn't easy, but it was the best decision I've ever made. It wasn't just about leaving her behind. It was about reclaiming my life, my peace, and my sense of self. I had given so much of myself to that relationship, and when it ended, I realized I had been neglecting the most important person in me. Sometimes, leaving is the hardest choice you'll ever make, but it's also the one that frees you to move forward and build a life that's truly yours. Since then, I've found a new rhythm in life. I focus on my own growth, on becoming the person I always wanted to be. I've made new connections, found joy in simple things, and learned that the future is far more beautiful when you're living for yourself, not for someone else. I may have loved her once, but now I've learned that love can't thrive where trust has been broken. So to anyone out there who's going through something like this, don't waste time holding on to someone who isn't willing to hold on to you. Let go of the past and give yourself the freedom to live your life the way you deserve. It may seem impossible at first, but trust me, it gets better. You'll come out stronger, wiser, and free.